I want you to think about what you ate yesterday. Not your worst day, not a holiday or a celebration, just a regular, ordinary Tuesday. The breakfast you made without thinking, the lunch you had because it was convenient, the dinner you prepared because it was familiar and easy and you have made it 100 times before. Now I want you to consider this. For adults over 60 with any degree of kidney stress, and remember that nearly 40% of adults over 60 meet the clinical criteria for some form of chronic kidney disease without knowing it, several of the foods that most commonly appear in that ordinary, unremarkable Tuesday are working against the kidneys every single time they are consumed. Not dramatically, not in a way that causes immediate, obvious harm, but consistently, repeatedly, day after day, in a way that accumulates silently over months and years into measurable, irreversible damage. And the most unsettling part of what I am about to tell you is not that these foods are junk food. It is not that they are obviously unhealthy or that any reasonable person would expect them to cause harm. Several of the 6 foods I am going to walk you through today are foods that most people consider neutral or even healthy. Foods that doctors recommend. Foods that appear in heart-healthy diet guidelines and diabetes management plans. The problem is that the kidneys are not the heart, and a food that supports cardiovascular health can simultaneously place significant stress on aging kidney tissue through mechanisms that are well documented in the nephrology literature, but almost never discussed in the standard 15-minute clinical appointment. My name is Dr. Favor Clinton. I have over 10 years of clinical experience, and kidney health education is one of my deepest professional commitments. Because I have watched too many patients discover, too late, that the foods they were eating without a second thought were contributing to a decline they could not feel and did not see coming. Today, I am going to walk you through 6 of those foods. For each one, I am going to explain exactly what it does to your kidneys and why, and I am going to tell you what to eat instead so that this video gives you something actionable, not just something frightening. Stay with me through all 6, because the information in this video could change not just what you eat tomorrow morning, but the trajectory of your kidney health for the years ahead. Before we get to the 6 foods, I need to give you some context about why diet and kidney health interact differently after 60 than they did at 40. Because without that context, some of what I am about to tell you may seem overstated. With it, I think you will find it makes complete and urgent sense. Your kidneys at 60 are not the same organs they were at 40. The natural aging process reduces kidney filtering capacity by approximately 1% per year after the age of 40. That means by the time you reach 60, you may already be operating with 20% less kidney function than you had 2 decades ago. Not because anything has gone wrong, simply because of biology. The number of functional filtering units inside the kidney, called nephrons, decreases with every decade. The blood vessels that supply the kidneys become stiffer and less responsive. The tubular cells that do the fine filtering work become less efficient at managing waste products and mineral balance. The kidney's ability to adapt to dietary challenges, to compensate for excess protein, excess phosphorus, excess potassium, excess sodium, diminishes. What this means in practical terms is that a dietary pattern that your kidneys could manage comfortably at 40 may be genuinely stressful to your kidneys at 65. The margin for dietary insult is narrower. The consequences of consistently exceeding that margin are more significant, and the timeline between when the damage begins and when it becomes clinically detectable is compressed. This is not an argument for extreme dietary restriction. It is an argument for informed dietary choices. Small, specific changes to what you eat regularly can have a measurable impact on kidney health over time. And the 6 foods I am about to describe are worth understanding precisely because they are so common, so frequently consumed without awareness, and so consistently implicated in the acceleration of kidney function decline in older adults. Let me tell you about a patient I will call Sylvester. Sylvester was 68 years old when I first saw him. A retired civil servant, careful, intelligent, the kind of man who read everything his doctor gave him and followed instructions to the letter. He had been managing type 2 diabetes for 11 years, and his blood sugar control was genuinely good. His HbA1c was consistently in the target range. His cardiologist was satisfied with his cardiovascular profile. He came to me after his primary care physician noticed a steady upward trend in his creatinine levels over 3 successive annual blood tests. Nothing dramatic, nothing that had triggered alarm, but a trend, and trends in creatinine are worth taking seriously. When I calculated his eGFR from those 3 readings, the decline was steeper than his diabetes alone would typically account for. I asked Sylvester to keep a detailed food diary for 2 weeks and bring it back to me. What I found when I reviewed it was not what most people would consider a bad diet. There was no excessive junk food, no fast food habit, no obvious dietary recklessness. What there was, repeated across nearly every day of that 2-week diary, was a pattern of foods that were placing consistent, compounding stress on his kidneys through 4 of the 6 mechanisms I am about to describe. He was eating spinach with most of his meals because he had been told it was anti-inflammatory and heart healthy. He was drinking a daily protein shake because his physiotherapist had recommended it for muscle maintenance. He was seasoning generously with table salt because he preferred it to the reduced sodium alternatives. And he was drinking 2 to 3 glasses of a commercial fruit juice daily because he thought it was a healthy alternative to soda. Every one of those choices was made in good faith. Every one of them was contributing to his kidney decline in a specific, documentable way. When we addressed those 4 dietary patterns specifically, his creatinine trend stabilized within 6 months. His eGFR stopped declining. He had not made a single change to his medications. He had changed what he ate. That is the power of this information. And that is why Sylvester asked me, at his 6-month follow-up, to find a way to share it with more people than just the ones sitting in front of me. This video is part of that answer. I want to be very precise at the start of this section because I am not telling you that vegetables are bad for your kidneys. Vegetables are essential. A plant-rich diet is broadly beneficial for kidney health. What I am telling you is that a specific subset of vegetables, consumed in large quantities on a daily basis, particularly in raw or concentrated forms, carries a specific and documented risk for people whose kidneys are already under stress. These are high-oxalate vegetables. They include spinach, beets, Swiss chard, rhubarb, and sweet potatoes. Oxalate is a naturally occurring compound in plants that the kidneys must filter and excrete. In healthy kidneys with abundant filtering capacity, moderate oxalate consumption is not a problem. The kidneys handle it efficiently. But in aging kidneys with reduced filtering capacity, and particularly in kidneys that are already managing some degree of dysfunction, high oxalate loads become a significant stressor. Oxalate binds to calcium in the urine and forms calcium oxalate crystals. Those crystals are the most common component of kidney stones. And even before they reach stone size, calcium oxalate microcrystals inflame and scar the delicate tubular tissue of the kidneys with every passing day. The problem has been amplified in recent years by the rise of green smoothies and daily spinach salads as health practices. A single large spinach smoothie can contain 3 to 4 times the daily oxalate intake that a kidney under stress can comfortably manage. People make these smoothies daily, for months and years, believing they are doing something profoundly healthy, while their kidney tubules experience daily microcrystalline trauma. What to eat instead? You do not need to eliminate these vegetables. You need to moderate their frequency, vary your vegetable choices widely, and when you do eat high oxalate vegetables, cook them rather than eating them raw. Cooking reduces oxalate content significantly. Boiling spinach and discarding the water removes a substantial portion of its oxalate content. Pairing calcium-rich foods with oxalate-rich foods at the same meal also helps because calcium binds oxalate in the gut rather than allowing it to reach the kidneys. Romaine lettuce, cauliflower, broccoli, and cabbage are all excellent low-oxalate alternatives that provide comparable nutritional value without the same kidney risk. This one surprises people most consistently. Protein is essential. After 60, the medical community has broadly communicated the importance of adequate protein intake for muscle maintenance, immune function, and metabolic health. And that communication is not wrong. Protein matters. The question is how much, what kind, and what the kidneys pay for it. Every gram of protein your body metabolizes produces nitrogen-containing waste products, primarily urea, that the kidneys must filter and excrete. This filtration work is called the renal solute load, and it is measurable. The higher your protein intake, the higher the renal solute load, and the harder the kidneys must work to process and excrete the resulting waste. In young kidneys with full filtering capacity, this increased workload is manageable without long-term consequence. In aging kidneys that have already lost a meaningful proportion of their nephrons, the sustained elevation in filtration demand that comes from consistently high protein intake contributes to what nephrologists call hyperfiltration injury. The remaining nephrons work harder to compensate for the ones that have been lost, and that chronic overwork accelerates their own decline. Animal protein sources, including red meat, processed meats, poultry consumed in large portions, and dairy products, carry the highest renal acid load of any food category. They not only increase the filtration burden, but also produce an acid load that the kidneys must buffer, adding another layer of work to an already stressed system. The daily protein shakes that Sylvester was consuming, recommended by a well-meaning physiotherapist for muscle maintenance, were adding a concentrated bolus of protein to his kidneys twice daily that his aging filtration system was not equipped to handle efficiently. What to eat instead? This is not a recommendation to become protein deficient. Adequate protein remains important after 60. The recommendation is to moderate total protein intake to the level your kidney function can support, which your nephrologist or dietitian can calculate specifically for you, and to shift a portion of your protein toward plant-based sources. Lentils, chickpeas, tofu, and tempeh provide good quality protein with a significantly lower renal acid load than animal sources. When you do eat animal protein, choose fish over red meat and keep portions moderate. Sodium's relationship with kidney health is well known in one direction. High sodium raises blood pressure, and high blood pressure damages the kidneys. That is true, documented, and important. But there is a second, more direct mechanism by which excess sodium harms the kidneys that most people have never been told about, and it is worth understanding clearly. Your kidneys filter and reabsorb sodium hundreds of times every day. The tubular cells that manage this reabsorption do an enormous amount of work to keep your sodium balance within the precise range your body needs. When dietary sodium is consistently high, the volume of sodium that must be filtered and managed increases substantially. The tubular cells work harder. Blood flow through the kidneys increases. Pressure within the tiny filtering units, the glomeruli, rises. That elevated glomerular pressure, called intraglomerular hypertension, is one of the primary mechanisms through which kidney function declines. The glomeruli were not designed to operate under sustained elevated pressure. Over time, that pressure causes them to scar and lose function. And once a glomerulus is scarred, it does not recover. The challenge with sodium is that its sources are not always obvious. Table salt added at the table or during cooking is one source, but the majority of sodium in the modern diet comes from processed foods, including bread and bakery products, canned soups and vegetables, deli meats, cheese, condiments, sauces, and restaurant meals. Many of these foods do not taste salty, but they carry sodium loads that accumulate quickly. Sylvester was adding generous amounts of table salt to his meals because he genuinely found the lower sodium alternatives bland and unsatisfying. He did not realize that the bread he was eating daily, the canned beans he used for convenience, and the condiments he added to his meals were already placing him well above a kidney-friendly sodium threshold before his shaker even came off the shelf. What to eat instead? The target for adults with any degree of kidney stress is typically no more than 2,000 milligrams of sodium per day. To achieve this without sacrificing flavor, shift your seasoning toward herbs, spices, lemon juice, and vinegar. Use fresh or frozen vegetables instead of canned wherever possible, or rinse canned vegetables thoroughly before eating to remove a significant portion of their sodium content. Read labels on packaged foods with the specific goal of identifying sodium content per serving. Sylvester's daily fruit juice habit is one I encounter constantly in patients who are genuinely trying to make healthy choices. Fruit juice is perceived as natural, as nutritious, as a healthier alternative to soda. And compared to soda, some versions are marginally better. But for the kidneys specifically, commercial fruit juice carries two specific threats that most people are entirely unaware of. The first is sugar load. A single glass of commercial orange juice, apple juice, or grape juice typically contains 25 to 30 grams of sugar. That sugar, consumed in liquid form and absorbed rapidly, causes a spike in blood glucose. Chronically elevated blood glucose, even in people without diagnosed diabetes, drives a process called glycosylation in the kidney's filtering units. The glomeruli become damaged. Their filtering precision declines. Protein begins to leak into the urine. This is precisely the mechanism through which diabetes damages the kidneys, and it operates on a spectrum. You do not need a diabetes diagnosis for sugar-driven glycosylation to be gradually damaging your kidney's filtering tissue. The second threat is potassium. Many fruit juices, particularly orange juice, tomato juice, and prune juice, are high in potassium. In healthy kidneys, dietary potassium is filtered efficiently, and excess is excreted in the urine. In kidneys with reduced function, potassium excretion becomes impaired. Potassium accumulates in the bloodstream. And elevated potassium, a condition called hyperkalemia, is not merely uncomfortable. It is dangerous. It disrupts the electrical signals that control the heartbeat. It can cause arrhythmia. In severe cases, it can cause cardiac arrest. What to drink instead? Water remains the most kidney-friendly beverage available. For variety, unsweetened herbal teas, plain green tea brewed from whole leaves, and warm water with fresh lemon are all well-supported alternatives that provide hydration without sugar load or significant potassium. If you want the nutritional benefit of fruit, eat the whole fruit rather than the juice. The fiber in whole fruit slows sugar absorption, significantly reducing the glycemic impact, and the portion is naturally limited by satiety in a way that liquid calories are not. Most people understand that soda is not health food, but the specific mechanism by which dark colas damage the kidneys is not widely known, and it goes beyond the sugar and the caffeine. Dark-colored cola drinks contain phosphoric acid, which is used as a preservative and flavor enhancer. Phosphoric acid is a highly bioavailable form of phosphorus, meaning it is absorbed by the body at a much higher rate than the phosphorus found in natural food sources. Natural food phosphorus is absorbed at roughly 40 to 60%. Phosphorus from phosphoric acid additives is absorbed at up to 90%. As we discussed earlier, elevated phosphorus in the bloodstream is one of the direct drivers of kidney damage. It deposits in kidney tubule tissue. It drives inflammation. It accelerates the calcification of blood vessels, including those supplying the kidneys. And it causes the deep, chronic itching that is one of the most distressing symptoms of kidney decline. Research has specifically linked regular cola consumption to an increased risk of chronic kidney disease independent of its sugar content. Studies comparing dark cola drinkers with non-cola drinkers have found measurably lower kidney function in the cola group, even after controlling for sugar intake, blood pressure, and other confounding variables. The phosphoric acid is the differentiating factor. What to drink instead? If you find water alone insufficient and you need carbonation for satisfaction, plain sparkling water or sparkling water with a squeeze of fresh lemon provides the sensory experience of a carbonated drink, without phosphoric acid, without sugar, and without the kidney-specific risks of commercial cola. Herbal teas, both hot and iced, provide variety and flavor without any of the concerns associated with cola. This is the most overlooked item on this list, and in some ways it is the most important one. Because unlike the other 5 foods, which most people at least have some awareness might be worth moderating, this one is hiding in plain sight in foods that carry health halos. Foods that are marketed as convenient, nutritious, and appropriate for adults managing their health. Phosphate additives listed on ingredient labels under names including disodium phosphate, sodium phosphate, calcium phosphate, phosphoric acid, and dicalcium phosphate are used in a vast range of processed and packaged foods. They appear in fast food chicken products, processed cheese slices, packaged baked goods, instant oatmeal, flavored nuts, certain breakfast cereals, canned fish, and a wide range of other convenience foods. Like the phosphoric acid in cola, additive phosphates are absorbed at a much higher rate than natural phosphorus, and the quantities present in a typical day's worth of processed food consumption can easily push phosphorus intake to levels that are genuinely challenging for aging kidneys to manage. The challenge is that phosphate additives are not listed as phosphorus on nutritional labels. They are listed as ingredients under their chemical names, and most people do not know to look for them, do not recognize them when they see them, and have no idea that the packaged chicken breast they are eating for a healthy lunch contains multiple phosphate preservatives that are contributing to elevated phosphorus in their blood. What to eat instead? The solution to phosphate additives is the same as the solution to most processed food concerns. Cook from whole ingredients as much as possible. Fresh meat, fish, eggs, legumes, whole grains, and fresh produce contain naturally occurring phosphorus that is absorbed at a much lower rate than additive phosphates, and that the body manages far more efficiently. When you do purchase packaged foods, make it a habit to scan the ingredient list specifically for any compound with the word phosphate or phosphoric in its name. If you find more than one, consider a different product. 6 foods. High-oxalate vegetables consumed daily in large, raw quantities. Excess animal protein, including from protein supplements. Table salt and high-sodium processed foods. Commercial fruit juices and sweetened drinks. Dark-colored colas with phosphoric acid. And processed and packaged foods containing phosphate additives. None of these are foods that most people expect to cause kidney harm. Several of them are foods that are actively marketed as health choices. That is precisely why this information matters, because informed choices are only possible when you have the information you need to make them. I want to be clear about something before you leave this video. I am not recommending a restrictive or extreme diet. I am not telling you to eliminate entire food groups. What I am telling you is that specific, targeted adjustments to these 6 categories, made consistently over time, can have a measurable and meaningful impact on how your kidneys function over the years ahead. Cook more from whole ingredients. Moderate your protein, especially from animal sources. Season with herbs and spices instead of salt. Choose water and herbal tea over juice and soda. Read ingredient labels with phosphate additives in mind. And if you eat high-oxalate vegetables, cook them rather than eating them raw and in large quantities daily. These are not dramatic changes. They are informed ones. And informed changes made consistently are exactly what kidney health requires. I want to hear from you in the comments. Which of these 6 foods surprised you the most? Which one have you been eating regularly without ever considering its effect on your kidneys? And now that you know, what is the one change you are willing to make starting this week? Those questions matter to me. The answers help me understand what to cover next, and your experience may be exactly the information that motivates someone else watching this video to make the change they have been putting off. If this video gave you something genuinely useful today, please share it. Share it with a family member who is managing high blood pressure or diabetes and does not know that their diet may be quietly accelerating kidney damage. Share it with a friend who drinks daily green smoothies and has no idea about oxalate. The information in this video costs nothing to share and could matter more than any supplement or medication. Subscribe for more honest, research-based conversations about protecting your health after 60. Next time, we are going to talk about 5 medications that millions of people over 60 take every single day that are silently damaging the kidneys. Medications that most patients have never been warned about. That is not a video to miss.